Hi, want to paint a teeny tiny, these are my giant hands, and this is my tiny painting. Want to paint a tiny beach scene with me? I went ahead and looked at some reference photos ahead of time on my phone because I'm using my phone to record. So I just penciled in a few little lines here with some taller ones. I'm thinking this will be some like beach grass down here. And then I've got like the shoreline. This down here will be sand and then some ocean here. And over on the side, I kind of drew, like I wrote bands of where I thought maybe there'd be white. So with watercolor painting, you could use, I forget what it's called because I don't like it. Gosh, it's going to come back to me. You can like lay down white and then paint around it and then peel off. It's not white. Lay down this like sticky stuff and then peel it off. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to try to leave the area kind of white. I also do not feel I have to be a pure artist, and if there are areas that I want to make white later, I'll use some of this. But I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to try to just use watercolor. We'll see. And then the sky will be up here, and I'm also thinking some like clouds. Anyway, I guess I'll start at the top. I have spritzed my watercolors. Beep, beep, beep. And I'm going to mix a little bit of cerulean blue with a little bit of, so this is, whoa, it's hard to tell. That's a cerulean blue. It's nice light blue, or it's like brighter than a sky blue in my opinion. Okay, there's too much stuff in my, will this not focus again? Focus, it got confused. There we go. Okay, I've mixed a combination of ultramarine blue and cerulean blue, and I have this, and I've added some water to it just with my brush because I don't want it to be like super bright. And I'm gonna just do a little, now watercolors, I'm rinsing off my brush and just using my brush wet now to pull the color around. Watercolors always dry lighter than they look. So if you have done something if you've done something bad and you think it's too dark, it will dry lighter. You can also just take a wet, clean brush and lift some of the color. You can also take a brush and dry it completely with something absorbent like a paper towel or a disgusting bar mop that's covered in paint. You can dry it off and then you can use the dry brush, I'll show you, to like lift up some color if you feel that's necessary. Alright, so blue sky, and I'm gonna just again use the wet brush to draw down a bit of the color. I'm imagining kind of some like clouds on the horizon, so I'm gonna kind of make some little cloud shapes here. Little cloud shapes. If you don't like random singing, this is not the art channel for you, because I will sing randomly. I just grabbed a little color. I'm just doing some streaks here. Give it a little more visual interest. I'm using a size 6. No, a size 4. I lied to you. A size 4 round brush right now. I did not know I had a size 4 round brush. I think I bought this at, oh, it is a Princeton. I bought this at the art supply store that we had in Asheville that unfortunately recently has closed. I will let that dry. Do I want to put any color at all in the clouds? I don't really like to leave things like totally white because I don't think that's all that realistic. I'm adding even more white to that blue color I made. Now, if I try to touch it, it'll bleed into that other color. So I'm just gonna, well, even that's too much. Don't like. I'm pulling the color out of it, some of the color. I'll leave the top kind of white. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know if those look like clouds anymore. If I had a Q-tip, I would use a Q-tip, but instead I'm going to use a slightly cleaner thing and just kind of tap some of this. Alright, cool, whatever. I'm going to outline. What did I do there? What did I do? See, that's what happens if you have, again, you're using two different parts of your brain when you're talking and when you're making stuff. So I can't always talk. All right, this is what I've done with my life. I don't know what to say about it right now. I didn't want it to bleed like that. Hopefully you're just watching me and you're not like doing exactly what I'm doing, because you'd be like, why? All right, let's move on before I make things any worse. I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to now take the blue that I already mixed and add some green to it, because I'm trying to make kind of like an oceany green, like bluey kind of color. Not like Bluey the Australian Shepherd cartoon dog. Bluey like the ocean. If you don't have any green, and if you have blue, you could add a little bit of yellow to it. And don't add too much. If you add too much, then you have green. And then I will do kind of like the horizon at a distance. Like so. And what I'm imagining is there will be some like white to kind of represent a little bit of foaminess. I will need to go back and add details. We'll work this out. And then, because you can't make details on watercolor paper until the underneath layer is dry, it's kind of hard to add like lines of dark color. So I'm just kind of, let's just call this a base coat. And I want this to be kind of white, like where it's washing up on shore. But because I didn't put any wet paint there, I can paint the shoreline now. I am going to use some of my yellow ochre color. Someday I'll look up if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Oh gosh, this palette. I need to wipe out a square, because everything I have will interfere negatively with the colors I want to mix. Okay, I'm going to take some of that yellow, see, that's what it looks like, just straight up. That's a pretty close color, or it could be. That could be a pretty close color to the ocean, to the sand. But I'm actually going to add a little bit of cerulean blue, like a tiny bit of cerulean blue to make it a little bit browner. And add the tiniest bit of periwinkle, and water. I want it to be light. If you do not have any of those colors, start with a yellow. I would start with a yellow and add some sort of purple. If you don't have a purple, then I would add a little tiny bit of red, and then a little tiny bit of blue, because those two colors make purple. And you should get closer to a brownish shade. You want it to be heavier on the yellow, probably, depending on the color of sand that you're going for. And just keep adjusting. And remember, there are many different colors of sand. I went to a black sand beach. I went to a green sand beach. Yes, I did. It was in Hawaii. You had to hike a very long time to get there. But I saw it and I did it. The black sand was also in Hawaii. Hawaii has all the best stuff. Your sound is not broken. I'm just not talking. I will tap in some more color closer. This is going to become a grassy area. Can you hear the neighborhood children screaming? I can hear them. I can hear them from my studio. All right, so we're making bacon, making progress. Is this dry? Probably not. I'm afraid to touch it. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. So when I come back, it'll be dry. and we will add more details. Hello! This is really dry because it's the next morning, so the lighting is entirely different in my studio. But you can see how much lighter this dried. And now it is time to go back in and do some stuff. First of all, the way that I did it on purpose, but the way that horizon line is not a straight line is bothering me, because generally speaking, a horizon line would be a straight line. And obviously it's just also really boring. There's no detail or anything. So I'm gonna go mix a little more of a combo blue-green color and go back in and straighten out that line. And I was just thinking how, like, watercolor, you can't do everything in one pass. You just can't. I'll just make this whole thing mostly darker. And then I'm going to begin to do here. Okay, so if these are waves that are curling over, underneath would be darker. It would be kind of like that. And they probably wouldn't go along the whole way like this. So I'll cover some of them up. So I'm just using the tip. This is why, I think I've made my plug before. A round brush is a good brush. Before I did blah, 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 blah. Before I say more, I just wipe this off on my towel bar mop thing, so it doesn't have any, I didn't wash it. I just wiped it so that I could kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, brush that out. Although I think I'm gonna need it darker than that. I'm gonna add some Prussian blue to the mixture. I already have Prussian blue. If you watched my color palette, what I have in my color palette is that darker blue, and it is kind of almost like an aqua-ish blue. And I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna really go for it. I'm gonna be brave and really do a dark color under here. Because if the wave is curling over, it would be dark back there. And then I'm going to use kind of a watered down, I don't know, I want this to kind of look foamy. So it'd be somewhat white, but would also have some color in it. We'll leave that like that for now. We can add a little bit more color here to the forefront, but it can't touch that because it'll bleed into it. So I'm mixing what I did last night, which was, do I have to go back and watch my own video to figure out what I mixed? I think I did some yellow ochre with cerulean blue and periwinkle, and I shall do it again. Hey, I just mixed too much periwinkle into it, so now it looks too green. All right. If you are finding watercolors too dark, one thing you can do is just grab some water on your brush and kind of brush them out, because they will get lighter, and as we said, get lighter when they dry too. I'm going to just leave that patch like that because sometimes it looks like a different color anyway. And I guess maybe I'll put some blue spots kind of in the clouds, although they already have some, just to like maybe indicate some different areas where there's some texture. Is that blue? That I don't know. I tried to grab a little bit of blue. All right, I feel happy with that, satisfied. And I'm going to add a little bit more of that same cerulean and ultramarine blue combo to here. Just a tiny bit. Just like, I don't want to. All right, so now you can see what a big difference just this extra layer made. So now there's actually a little bit of coming up off the page, a little bit of texture. When this dries, I think probably a few more details in the top part of the ocean here. Yes, I can see it kind of bleeding into that. I don't care. And then a little more color and texture. Actually, while I'm here, maybe I will do a few little, like, maybe the sand has some areas where people have been walking on it. Maybe it's a little bit. So when you paint wet on wet, you can't expect any of the details to stay. They will spread out, but maybe it'll give like a hint of some texture. Maybe there's an area in the distance that's like slightly greener. Okay. All right. So you can see the texture, and when I come back, I will add more details, and then the final thing will probably be this foreground brushing, but everything else will need to be completely dry and done in order to do that. This is dry enough for me to work on a little bit more. It's not completely dry. My main thing that I want to do right now is a little more cleanup of this horizon here with a nice dark. I make sounds, it helps me paint, and then I'm wiping off my brush and doing that thing again where I kind of like draw it down. Okay. I think that, actually, I want to take out a little bit of that color. I just kind of like dried off my brush, and I'm going to pull a little bit of color out, possibly. Okay, definitely. I want to give the impression that the horizon's way back. Okay. And do a little more here. This is already pretty dark, so I'm going to try to do just a real thin line. Little shadow line there under. Oh, I didn't finish saying why I love round brushes. Because you can use the point for details. You can hold on to a little more paint here in the, they call it the belly of the brush. The rest of that I'm going to leave alone for now. I feel pretty good about that. I'm going to add in a little more. Okay. I did not clean my brush before I started mixing up my beach color. So right now I'm trying to make it a little more yellow. It's pretty good. I think I just want a couple of sections that, holy shiitakes, Jess. What am I doing? I'm kind of losing the thread here. I'm trying to make a sufficient beach color. And I'm sort of going off kooky, going off kooky compared to what it was. It's kind of green. It's kind of too green. Do a little more in the forefront. A little more golden kind of color. Now that this should be mostly dry, I can get a little closer. Okay. I want to make some very, very thin lines of dark color. Hopefully I don't regret this, like out here. Yeah, okay, it was too wet for me to do that. That's fine, I'll come back and do that. All right, it shall dry once more. We're getting there. You know what? I think I am deeming this ready for swoopy leaf details. Because otherwise I think it's pretty good. It's just supposed to be a little fun thing. All right, so this is the color I was using for the beach where parts of it got too green. I'm going to make it even greener by adding some blue. You can't see, cerulean blue. Yeah, so it's kind of green now, kind of gray green. All right, let me. You're not wet, right? Are you wet? It's a little hard to tell. I am holding my brush like this, and I'm gonna just up. We'll see. You're not wet, are you? Are you not? I just don't want you to. Okay, I'm trying to just use the tip here. Just the tip. Really don't want any bleeding or weirdness. Okay, that's layer one. I am going to now add some raw sienna. I want it to be browner. If you wanted to make a browner color and you were using a green, you could add some like pink or red to it to like make it a muddy browner color. We'll try that. Nope, it's not dark enough. I'm gonna add some Prussian blue. I'm gonna throw everything at this just to try to make it a darker brown. All right. I feel like the tip of this is not doing what I want. I am going to grab my, I think they call this brush a rigger brush. It's really, when it's wet, it's better. Here, let me make it wet. There you go. It makes a real skinny point. If you do not have a brush like this, just use your smallest round brush. And the reason I'm using this brush right now is because I want to finish this, and trying to make really skinny, reedy details while the bottom is wet is not working for me. So I'm just gonna use this. I'm just brushing up. Makes those really skinny lines. Do you need one? I don't know. It's hard to say. I use mine, but not like all the time. Depends on if you want. It's also really good for the branches of trees, like silhouetted trees or any kind of tree. Like, it makes those really, really fine lines. I think there's another name for it too. The name I can think of is rigger, though. I think like R-I-G-G-E-R. I think because of like you can make the rig, like the rigging lines on a boat or something like that. All right, I'm gonna hope that this is dry enough, even though I just did it, that I could peel it off and it'll still, you know, it won't like bleed. So let's see. Okay, good start. Good start. Okay. Ta-da! Tiny little beach scene. You can like add details endlessly. Like I could go back in and add more, whatever, but this was just supposed to be a fun little thing, and it is a fun little thing. I feel pretty happy with it. So if you painted one, I would love to see it. And if there are other tiny things or other things you want me to paint, tell me. And yes, right now I'm looking at this, I'm like, I should add more details. I'm going to leave it alone though. I'm going to do my best. Thanks for being here.